Precious Martin Muses and a rare Friday afternoon stream because, yes, Precious, we are going to be reviewing the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, or rather the 3 books within them, rather novellas. And I read them for the very first time, but someone here who has not read them for the first time, but read them at least once, twice, I believe, is none other than the man himself, the Viking, the King of the North, Stig Baratheon.
Hi. Yeah, I've actually read them technically 3 times.
Okay.
Because I read the graphic novels once as well.
Ah, there we go.
But
Yes.
I have to say that the graphic novels are 10 out of 10s. They nailed everything in it. And there's not a lot left out at all.
Huh. Well, there you go. So if you want to see a faithful adaptation, go ahead and do so. Now, recently, George R. R. Martin in a Nada blog said that he saw most of season 1 and loves it, and said it's very, very faithful. Though, of course, we all know that trick, don't we? Where season 1, they do it well, and then they wait till season 2 to screw everybody over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's happened with most fantasy shows out there where, The Witcher stuck fairly close to what a season 1 would be like, but and then not so much at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And in the chat, we have your Barmy. Thank you for being here. And he comments, yep, season 2, Egg was really a girl all along. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they can look at George Martin and say, the yoke's on you.
Ha. There we go.
And
well,
he'd be shell-shocked.
Oh, dear. Well, most notoriously, they did it with House of the Dragon, though the signs were there in season 1 of House of the Dragon, but so much of it was superior television that we forgot, and they just really pulled the rug in second season and just made it horrendous. Yeah, LOL. He's like in the puns. But speaking of Duncan Egg, though, because of a theory that you have, which ties into A Song of Ice and Fire, that they can't do that with Egg because of what's going to be revealed later. But that's a discussion for another day. But speaking of Dunk and Egg, since you're a little more familiar with it than I am, Steve, I'm a first-time reader, can you give a brief background of what these novellas are and who is Dunk and Egg? When are these set?
Well, Dunk is Sir Duncan the Tall, who is mentioned in the Game of Thrones books as well, who becomes, the commander of the Gold Cloaks eventually, protecting the king. No, Gold Cloaks. No, sorry, the Gold Cloaks protect the city, don't they? What's the King's Guard? That's what they're called.
Yes, King's Guard. Thank you.
Yeah, famous leader of the King's Guard eventually. But he teams up with Egg, who is Aegon, a Targaryen prince, and they basically become a duo, right? Traveling around. And it takes place, 200 years before the books? The main series?
I believe so. I'd have to Google that. Yeah. But
I don't remember how far before.
Yeah. Well, it's when obviously they still have is it Summerhall? It's the one where it goes poof, they blow it up later.
Yeah, something happened at Summerhall, and but it looks like Dunk put his foot in the door, and that actually saved Aegon at the tragedy of Summerhall. After that, we know nothing. It's just little hints.
Yeah, and that's why we're hoping for Winds of Winter. Now, Martin did say in his Nada blog that once the Winds of Winter comes out, he's planning on doing another novella, which brings the hope that maybe theory that a lot of people have is he's really finishing both books at the same time and is going to release them not simultaneously, but he's basically been working on A Dream of Spring at the same time. And once he releases Winds of Winter, because he really cannot do the Dunkin' Eggs until the entire A Song of Ice and Fire is released, unless a certain reveal is going to happen in the Winds of Winter.
Yeah. Well, technically, he is working on both books because when he did book 5, right? He was just he was just writing, and then he basically reached a point where okay, this is a good place to end the book because he had written, I think he said 500 pages past book 5 when they released book 5.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
he is working on the story. It's just,
Yeah. And we have thoroughly trashed him as far as that's concerned on that. I always say, if you're going to bash Martin, trust me, there's plenty to bash him about. And this is where he is at his weakest and has no defense. But this is a good point that your Barmy says, well, rather wish it had an end. And this segues into what I would like to say about why I enjoyed reading these 3, because I believe they're not necessarily requiring an end. Like even the Hedge Knight, he could have stopped there and I would have been a happy camper. The middle one, he could have stopped there and I would have been a happy camper. And the same thing with the third one, because they are episodic and not necessarily needing an ending. They are very simple tales. So I'm a weirdo. Out of all of Martin's World of Ice and Fire stories, my least favorite so far is A Song of Ice and Fire, and that is because it's not done. But I love Fire and Blood. I just adored Fire and Blood reading that as a fake history.
And that one's not done either.
Technically not done, but since it's a history book, it doesn't need to be done. But you can enjoy it for exactly what it's supposed to be. But the novellas I've really enjoyed too, because again, you can just sit and immerse yourself in this world and not necessarily feel like there's something that has to be revealed. Now, I believe that there are lots of little hints and clues that might go with a bigger story, but you can just enjoy them. So if you want to just read Martin with some very solid writing and just enjoy a tale, I think that these are great. I mean, the first one, A Hedge Knight, it's so simple, it's ridiculous. Well, deceptively simple. It's a guy, a hedge knight, and hedge knights are ones that are, how do I say it? They're not really tied to a house, right? They're just knights that go around and be knights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of like the, in the old samurai days when they had a ronin. It's a masterless samurai, almost.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, and he decides to go to a tourney. And, where guys go in jousting, rather, not javelin. And then there's this cute little kid whose name is Egg. And he's called Egg. Well, we know why later, but he's bald. He's shaved his head. The reason why he shaved his head is, of course, he is a Targaryen, and his real name is Aegon.
And that there is one of the reasons why I have that little theory that Varys is Egg.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we first see Varys in the books, the first line that describes him is he was bald as an egg.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And for the same reason that Egg in this story shaves his head, well, maybe that's what Varys has done. Especially since it's established that he's magical, but we don't know how.
Yeah, he had, there's something with his rings, and he seems to be able to use glamour spells a bit, kind of like what Melisandre does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So finish the damn books, Martin. But in any case, he takes him on as a squire, though officially he does it at the end of the novella, but I think at first he just kind of lets him tag along during
Yeah.
this little adventure. Yeah. And while this is happening, there is an assault, I believe, which is a catalyst for what ends up happening with this big showdown, and everything just snowballs from there. And it's a challenge to the death. And then before you even know what's happening, some of the people from the Targaryen side join Dunk and this other Targaryen. I forget the name of the bad guy in this, where they basically have a melee. And so it just builds and builds, and then boom. And next thing you know, Dunk is in the middle of almost a mini civil war because some of them do not side with their kinsmen. And
Yeah.
one
And
died. There are spoilers here.
yeah, and these takes place way before the main series, and the atmosphere in Westeros is completely different. This is more like the classical Robin Hood England ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also after the Blackfire Rebellion, if I'm
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, because that plays a part in the middle book. So it's kind of between wars, because as we all know, history is one long defeat. You can never really be long without a war. But yeah, and it's like, let's have a tourney. You can almost imagine like the medieval music and all that in the background. That is why this TV series that's coming up sounds like a no-brainer. That if they do this right, and it sounds like they have, at least season 1, that we hopefully will get to see a little bit of that merry attitude that you are describing here, Steve. But I'm cheating and looking at a summary. And yeah, Dunk is technically not a knight, if I read this correctly, because he was a squire to the hedge knight Arian of Pennytree, and he died before he could actually knight him.
Yeah.
Am
He
I
was
right on
going
that?
to knight him. He was going to knight him and all that, but he croaked before he actually did it. So Dunk is kind of claiming he did,
Mm-hmm.
when it's probably not true. But
Yeah.
Dunk is one of the actually quite a few characters that Martin has written that is 100% good,
Mm-hmm.
because while he's not knighted, he actually behaves like a knight
Yes.
in the
And
classical sense.
yeah, it's very much a technicality, in my humble opinion. It's a white light. It's similar to maybe a situation where two people maybe aren't technically married, but they've been living as a married couple for 50 years. Like, are they
Yeah.
married? Aren't they married? You see that they used to call that common law marriage. It's like a common law knight. And I think your Barmy is correct. Is it Arian, the POS?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this book is also very similar to A Knight's Tale. If you've seen that movie,
Yes.
there's a guy who's not a knight, but they find out that he is a knight later on. He was one all along, or something, right? But he impresses the nobility with his deeds rather than title.
Yes. Which brings a very simple theme. What makes you truly a knight? Is it in the heart, or is it in the externals? Hello, Dadman Walking. Thank you rather for being here. A little similar to Brienne. Yeah, because technically she was never knighted in the books at all. But she was a Kingsguard person. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Hello, Lord Thoth. Everyone is coming in. Hello. Yes, we like this
And
again. This is my favorite of Martin here.
well, Dunk is also a bit similar to Sir Barristan.
Ooh, yeah. He's a true knight.
Well,
Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Okay.
and they both had the same title eventually. So,
Ooh.
leader of the Kingsguard.
Well, there you go. Hello, DJ Play Nice. And thank you for hosting. Well, thank you for being here. And thank you, thank you, Steve, for helping me out. Because again, I am a newbie in this little part of the world. Looking at the summary here, he is nearly barred from the competition, the Hedge Knight, but it's Prince Baelor Targaryen. That was the dude who I kind of referred to earlier and couldn't remember his name. He vouches for him. And Dunk watches the first day of competition among the commoners with egg on his shoulder. After several spectacular tilts, the day ends when Prince Aerion Targaryen disgraces himself by killing Sir Humphrey Harding's horse. Oh, he's about to become the biggest villain on the planet for the normies who watch the show because holy crap, you do not mess with an animal.
Wow.
Wow. Yes. And then that night, Aegon informs Dunk that a puppeteer girl he had met earlier is being beaten by Prince Aerion. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't recall if it was a grape or a beating, but either way, it's pretty bad. Hello, Buddy Hutler.
Yeah, I think it would have led to a grape.
Yeah. Maybe it, yeah, because Dunk leaps to her defense and attacks Aerion, striking him in the face. With which hand did you touch me? To misquote one of my favorite lines from a different movie. And of course, you do not strike royalty. You're not even really technically supposed to touch them. But yeah, he struck Aerion's brother, Prince Aegon.
Oh, he beat the
Targaryen.
shit out of him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so he gets arrested, obviously. And Dunk chooses to take a trial by combat because, oh yeah, they wanted to cut off his hand. It's like, dudes.
Yeah, it was either that or trial by combat.
Yeah, and he chose that. Yeah, we were barmy. Medieval PETA gonna go hard. Yeah. Yes, correct. It is. And so far, I trust Martin on this, not on other things, that it is well done, the first season. Of course, second season is when it's probably all going to go to hell. But yes. So,
just to avoid any confusions, right? We're reviewing the books that the new TV show will be based on.
Correct.
But here's the thing. If they tie this show into the train wreck that was the Game of Thrones show, it's dead on arrival.
Well, and I think they will because perhaps they even have to.
I don't know.
I love the way some people were coping, thinking, no, this is like a reboot, and it's going to lead to a better ending for Game of Thrones. And then at the end of season 2, they completely tied it in with the Game of Thrones show. But
yeah, the Fire and Blood. They actually did that in the first episode of season 1 with that stupid dagger.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I found it strange, though, that people were holding out that far, but the fact that they just really came out and basically showed a spoiler reel for the Game of Thrones season 8, it was pretty funny. Okay, it was called The Trial of 7. That's what happened. I said it turned into this big melee crazy thing. Yes, in jail, Dunk chooses to take a trial by combat rather than lose his hand, and Prince Aerion demands the combat to be a trial of 7. As his brother, Prince Darren, also accused Dunk of kidnapping Aegon from his charge. Oh, yes, because that is when we find out that Aeg is really Aegon. Dunk must find 6 champions to fight with him against 7 accusing knights, or he will forfeit. And I guess if he forfeits, then he loses his right hand.
So it's actually similar to. Have you seen The Magnificent 7?
I haven't. That's
really?
when I really haven't.
Holy crap!
I know I'm in trouble. It's one of those I know about, but I really don't think I've watched. Like very recently when I watched Dirty Harry, I realized I had never actually seen the movie.
Yeah. Well, get it done.
Okay, I will. But first, There's someone called Stefan Fossaway is the first ally Dunk finds. He promises to bring Dunk more champions, as does Stefan's squire and cousin Raymond Fossaway. Egg promises to bring more champions for Dunk's cause. Raymond returns with Sir Humphrey Hardying and Sir Humphrey Beesbury, good brothers seeking revenge for the grievance Arian committed against Hardying. So, this Arian guy is a douchebag. Aegon brings Sir Robin Riesling and Sir Lionel Baratheon. Yeah, we know what Baratheons are. The Laughing Storm, both eager for the glory of competing in the first trial of 7 in a century. You see, this is very old-fashioned medieval swashbuckling stuff. They're like, dude, we get to be in a trial of 7, the first in a century. Let's do this. And they're pissed at other people. So Stefan returns only to say he's decided to fight with the accusers for the reward of a lordship. It's like, oh, man. Jerks. Angered by his cousin's treachery, Raymond begs to be knighted and fight in Stefan's place. Dunk hesitates, but before he can give his answer, Dunk is called away by Lord Ashford, and Lionel grants Rayan his knighthood. So Dunk doesn't have to do a fake knighthood. I think eventually they're going to have to sort that out, unless that's going to be something he keeps to his grave. Still needing a 7th champion, Dunk appeals unsuccessfully to the crowd. And then finally, Prince Baelor himself announces that he will champion Dunk himself, though the accusers include 3 of his family members and 3 of his father's Kingsguard. So that's what I'm saying is it's a mini... It's like a mini civil war, and that also shows that Baelor is a man of honor, so he's willing to even fight against his father's Kingsguard and all that, because he knows that Arian is a douchebag and sucks. So I just love this. Actually, out of all 3 of these novelists, this was my favorite. I loved this. Ah, boy. And let's see. So then they have the big old melee, and we're talking about some beasts of men. First of all, Dunk, the reason why he's called Sir Duncan the Tall is because the dude is like more than 7 feet. I think in the books, the dude they got to play him is some Irish rugby player type guy who's 6'7", 6'8". So we're talking about Kingsguardsmen, Sir Duncan the Tall, and all these badass guys. So this is going to be one hell of a climax to see in real life. But Martin writes so well. He made me feel like I was a spectator in this. Like I was also there watching this go down. It was just really, really cool. And anyway, so Dunk manages to grapple Arian and use his size advantage to pummel Arian into submission. Arian recants his accusation, ending the trial, but the fighting costs a lot of lives. It says the fighting costs the lives of both Humphreys, Prince Baelor, so Prince of the 7 Kingdom dies, who had not brought his own armor, but instead wore armor made for his son, took a blow to the head from a mace. That's going to smash your head up.
He actually didn't know his head was smashed until they removed the helmet, because he was dizzy and falling over and stuff. And then, like, yeah, your skull is smashed at the back.
Oh, dude. And then Arian's father, Makar, if I'm pronouncing that right, meets with Dunk after the funeral, revealing that it was his mace that killed Baelor. He regrets Arian's behavior and offers Dunk a position in his household to train Aegon. But Dunk insists on being allowed to travel and take Aegon as his squire to learn to be a better knight than Arian. You see, this is almost like the male version of Little House on the Prairie episode, where at the end he's like, no. It's like, I will train him that he's going to be a better knight than Arian. And we have honor, we have glory, and all this good stuff. So there was a time where things didn't maybe completely suck, where men really rose above themselves. And I think that Dunk is a very old-fashioned hero, if you know what I mean, and a other people back there, I forget who it was, agreed with you, Steve, about more along the lines of Sir Barristan.
Yeah. Well, I kind of thought it was um, that Dunk is a bit of a mix between Heath Ledger's character in A Knight's Tale and Ivanhoe.
Mm. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. And so the story ends with, Dunk and Egg going off on an adventure, and Egg is going to continue pretending to be Egg, not Aegon, and off they go. And you can just see them. And then roll the
Yeah.
credits. It's very well written.
It's like those old TV shows would have when you had one story per episode.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
and next episode they're out riding again and new story, right?
yeah.
So the Dunk and Egg can stop at any point, and it would be
Hmm.
fine.
Yep.
You know,
And that's why I think maybe you're better off at this point reading the Duncan Egan novellas and ignoring A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't think there's any point to read A Song of Ice and Fire until he's done. I had started reading them again when it really looked like he was going to make an announcement, because he is, as you say, incapable of reading the room and thinks he's being funny. And it's like,
yeah.
dude, you're not funny at this point. So
Oh,
I've decided, okay, until he says on this date, I am not going to resume reading A Song of Ice and Fire because it's wasting my time.
I actually reread the whole damn thing last year, including the
Mm-hmm.
Dunk and Egg stuff, and I read Fire and Blood for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But thinking, book 6 might come out soon. But even if comes out in a couple of years, the books will be fresh in my memory anyway. But the reason why I reread the whole Song of Ice and Fire series was kind of, um, I think this was the fourth time I've read them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But when you get to your third read through, you're not really reading the story again. You're actually doing research, looking for
Yeah.
little hints and bits you missed, right? But
Mm-hmm.
even if the series is not done, I was happy rereading it. I had fun with it, but there are so many other fantasy series out there. So people, that are losing their shit, and it's usually people who haven't even read the books that are losing their shit on them, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
read something else. Read The Wheel of Time, or the
Yes.
Rift War cycle by Raymond Feist, or the hundred other great fantasy series out there, right?
Yeah. Or hell, go back to the greatest of them all, The Lord of the Rings. I am going to be covering that tomorrow night. We're going to be doing a deep dive, me and Hiking Feanor, of Eowyn, and only Eowyn in the books. So yeah, some of the greatest fantasy is out there. I think a lot of people, though, are so pissed at him for not finishing. Maybe people that haven't read the books. Those are people that hated the ending of Game of Thrones and they want him to give a better ending. But yeah,
Well,
it's
the people who cheered for season 5, 6, and 7 got the season 8 they deserved, because
well, that was me.
season 8 wasn't created in a vacuum. It
Yeah,
was the poorly written fan fiction, lore breaking crap in season 5, 6, and 7 that led to 8. But
yeah.
people were like, "Oh yeah, wow, dragons, best show ever." Didn't pay attention to the story at all.
Well, as I said, that was me because I was a normie. I didn't catch on to it because I didn't know better, but I knew by season 7 that something was severely wrong. But we
Was
digress.
Wasn't
Now,
it season 6 that ended with "Oh, it's snowing in King's Landing"? Season 7 starts. There's no snow in King's Landing.
well, like I said, I no,
It's
it was
like,
season. 7 that ended with a snow. Never mind. Fuck, screw that
Yeah.
show. I'm trying to give away the F-bomb. But as far as a score that I would give on the Hedge Knight, and the only reason why I decided to give a score to this is because I think that it just deserves it. The Hedge Knight novella rather, is a 10 out of 10 for me. I don't have one bad thing to say about that. And it is very rare that that occurs for me, where it's just like, I loved every second, every minute, every word of this. It was fun. And you can read it in one sitting. These are very short. So 2 thumbs up. I have some things to say about the middle one and the third one, but this one is just a delight.
They're about 100 pages each.
Mm-hmm.
If you remove the full page illustrations and stuff, because the hardcover collected thing has a heck of a lot of illustrations, and that was great. The illustrations are awesome. So, yeah, I guess for what it is, and what it's trying to do, introduce 2 characters and all that stuff. I'm not sure of a 10 out of 10, but maybe a 9.
That's fair.
I don't know. But like you said, the first one is probably the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would highly recommend it. And it's appropriate. Now, I would still give it a rated R for the language and the violence, but, we're not going to see too much that's really disturbing in this. It's very traditional violence, if you know what I mean. Just people pummeling the crap out of each other. Some very earthy language. There is an assault on a woman, but it happens kind of off screen. And as Stieg said, it was stopped before it became a grape. So
yeah, and I think the cussing is actually kept to a fair minimal.
Yeah.
In it.
Yeah. I think there's a few see you next Tuesdays, but that's just expected in this kind of a story. I guess what I'm saying is, it's not gratuitous and stuff. And not again to bring up the TV show, but I think the TV show gave people a wrong impression of what his writing actually is, because it's more the TV show where that stuff was gratuitous than it is actually in his written work.
Heck yes, the nudity
and the sex and all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's like 90% more in the show, I think, than in the books.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, they even added a prostitute character who basically is present where most of the nudity happens, and she's not even in the books.
Yeah, I think they just had the hots for the actress. But I'm going to pause here just for a second before we go to the next one, and I'm going to give you the con, Stieg, because I just had a delivery at the door that I need to take. So just 1 second.
Okay. Let's see. I'll see what's going on in the chat then. Yeah, Lord Thought says aspirin will help with a broken skull. Yeah, that's probably true. And also follows up with Screw That Show. Also true. Yeah, I agree with you, Lord Thought. It's not... I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10, but then maybe it's tough to have a novella that's a 10 out of 10 as well, given that, the short length of it, right? So I guess a novella can't be compared to a novel. And,
okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Hey, look who it is. Another man from the future. It is Tomby. Hail, ladies. Well, one lady and howdy chat and mods. Yes. So, yeah, Britain is cold and wet. You're still freezing up there, Steve.
No, not really. It's about 0 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Depends on what your tolerance is. Okay, so I'm sure you said great and enlightening things while I was gone.
No.
Oh.
It's just yapping with the chat a bit.
Yay! Well, thank you. Alrighty. Yeah, it was something that had to go into the freezer, otherwise it was going to melt. All right. Well, we're
A
going to move on.
dead prostitute?
No. Oh my goodness. Nothing like that. Yeah, I'm glad that you're excited about it, or not excited, rather joking about that. I'm not even sure that's legal here in America. But the second story is called the Sworn the
Wait,
Sworn Sword.
you're not even sure if it's legal in America to put a prostitute in a freezer? How can you not be sure that that's illegal? Because
I
I can,
stepped into that.
I'm pretty sure it's damn illegal there too.
Oh no. Oh no. They don't melt, they smell though. Oh dear. Oh dear. I was thinking of prostitution, not that. Yeah. Yeah, dead prostitutes in freezers are bad. Just you've heard it here first.
Yeah.
Okay. The Sworn Sword. A year and a half after the Hedge Night, the Seven Kingdoms are suffering from a terrible summer drought, which in turn had followed the Great Spring Sickness because life sucks, especially before antibiotics. Dunk had sworn his sword to Sir Eustace Osgrey of Steadfast in the Reach. Eustace is an old dun knight who dwells on the dual losses of his family and its ancient honors. They return to find that the local stream has dried up while they were gone. Suspicious and unheeding of the warning by fellow sworn sword Sir Bennis of the Brown Shield, Dunk sends Egg ahead to Standfast, who goes to investigate. Upstream, Dunk and Egg discover that a dam has been built on the order of Lady Rohan Rubber of Coldmoat. When the workmen refuse to take down the dam, Sir Bennis cuts one of them with his longsword. So this is where it's almost like, again, an old-fashioned, maybe Western kind of miniseries where it's like, something's wrong. The stream isn't working. There's a drought. And then they find that a villain has dammed the stream.
Well, this one kind of reads like, like a Western, like two ranchers having a feud.
Yep. Yeah, and then Sir Bennis cuts one of them with his longsword. Yeah, so they have a shootout, but it's a sword out.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Eustace tells them a story about Sir Wilbert Osgrey, who lived at the time of Queen Giles Gardner, etc. They inform him about the dam. When Eustace hears how Bennis taught one of the workers a lesson, he is quick to realize that Lady Rohan will not suffer such an insult. He orders Bennis and Dunk to gather men from his 3 villages and train them to fight. Hence, commence fight sequence training, or not a sequence, montage. Again, like you said, very much like a Western. It's like, oh, I'll get the people to fight against the big bad people. However, they only managed to find 8 men. After a day of training, Bennis tells Dunk that the peasants will not be able to stand against Rohan's knight. And then discussing the situation with Egg, the young boy suggests using his boot, in which he has hidden a ring with his father's personal sigil on it. So he was basically wanting to use his Targaryen weight to throw around. But he's like, thank you, that's really cute, but no, your identity has to remain a secret. And then check this out. Maybe you can help me. Dunk has a dream about burying his horse Chestnut in Dorne. And I don't know, like, does Duncan have... They talked about this a little bit in the story. Does Duncan have, like, some sort of supernatural thing going on, or is it just a coincidence?
It's probably not a coincidence. It could be, the green site.
Yeah.
that
I suck at it.
Jojen and Bran has and stuff like that.
Oh.
But what were there any weirwoods nearby? Because that would be a thing too, right? Was it a
Mhm.
weirwood bed or whatever? But
Oh.
um, yeah. Anyway,
Oh,
visions.
okay.
There's a lot of visions in Westeros.
Yes. And if I'm correct, we don't know, do we, where they come from?
Um, it's strongly hinted that whoever is doing shenanigans north of the wall is sending stuff in dreams, people. But I don't think this is the case with this one.
Okay. Maybe that just a recognition that there are some things that we just can't completely understand. All right. And then what is it they're trying to figure out? They're trying to figure out about something called a blood price, an ancient form of weregeld. I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know. Again, this story was a little bit convoluted until we get to the actual end where there is a little bit of a reveal. And so Duncan, he goes over to the Rohan chick, and it turns out she's a pretty young woman instead of an old lady, which he was led to believe. And he is informed that the river does not belong to Sir Eustace, but has been granted by King Targaryen to House Weber for its services in the Blackfire Rebellion. And it had been taken from House Osprey in punishment for their support of Daemon Blackfire. So can you talk a little bit about what is this Blackfire Rebellion they're referring to?
I don't remember. Well, it's Targaryen bastards, isn't it? Wanting to get the throne or whatever.
Yeah, and there was enough of a perhaps a bit of a claim, but yeah, that they were a bastard son of the late King Targaryen claimed the throne from his older true-born brother. Yeah. And in any case, so it turns out that there's more going on right now than a simple dispute. It has to do with people that were supporting the Blackfires. And these rebellions, it didn't just happen once. I mean, it was this whole Blackfire thing was an issue for quite a while. Like, who really should
they
claim the
had
throne?
two rebellions with the Blackfires, which I think
Yeah.
was where Sir Barristan made his name in one of the rebellions.
Yeah. Sir Barristan, he's been around, and yeah, they did him dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to make a long story short, Lady Rohan refuses to break up the dam or take the blood price. She demands that Sir Bennis will be turned over to her, or else she will take him herself. Shocked and angered by all these revelations, Sir Duncan wants to leave Oski service. However, as he realizes that the villagers will not stand a chance against Lady Rohan's well-armed soldiers, he decides to stay. And so they meet up with Lady Weber and the small army. Sir Duncan Aston is granted a private parley with Lady Weber. And this is where he shows her the ring privately and says, hey, Egg is like a prince of the blood. And he cuts his own cheeks. You see, this is where he's a man that's honorable, because he realizes that her person was wounded and she needed something in response to that. She needed some justice. So he cuts his own cheeks, and she is impressed.
Cheeky fellow, wasn't
it? Yeah. And then they decide that they're going to solve the matter in a fight between champions. Sir Duncan fights Sir Lucas and is able to kill him, but almost drowns in the process. So again, this is where the old-fashioned thing comes in. A lot of these end with, well, we had one with the Trial of Seven, and then this with another duel. And then Lady Rohan decides she's going to marry Sir Duncan, and she's like, but stay and be the captain of my guard. And what is it? She says, I'll give you like your finest horse. And he's like, no, I don't want that. And she says, but you've got to take something from me. And what does he take from her? He takes a big Hollywood smooch and cuts her braid so he will have a thing of her hair.
Yeah, showing again that Martin does have heroic characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, as you said, most people only know the TV show. Follow the Bradley's Fun is here. Hello. Thank you for being here. Yay. Yeah, we're talking about the books, not obviously the show, because the show's not even come out. But, and again, this was one of my least favorite, I think, because half the time I'm not even entirely sure what was going on with some of all the backstory. But the way that it ends with the kiss and getting the hair, that's again a very old-fashioned trope. You've seen that in a lot of like mysteries, a lot of TV shows where the antagonists are secretly attracted to each other and they can't be together, but they share a little moment, and it's just a kiss. If it was less old-fashioned, it would have been more than a kiss that they would have shared at the end.
yeah. On that Thanksgiving, it wouldn't have been the turkey that got stuffed.
Wow.
But
There we go.
this is my least favorite of the three, though.
I agree.
The first one's easily the best, I think.
Mhm.
This one it wasn't a dud or anything, but I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's fine, but it wasn't really.
I would agree.
It wasn't wow.
And I was not very entertained by it.
No. It was a bit dull.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was the cast around him that was the problem.
Yeah. Because even the stuff with Lady Rohan, I could have cared less about her. So anyway, moving on to the third one, the Mystery Night. It's a few years later, the year is it a few years? It's 2012, and Duncan the Tall and Egg go to the Riverlands. They're going to be taking up service with Baron Stark, who has sent a call for men to help fend off the Greyjoy raids on the northern coast. And I like little things like this. It's like, I know that name, and the stupid Greyjoys are screwing around as usual. And on their way, they encounter a Lord's train led by Lord Gorman Peake of Starpike. Additional members of the party are a guy called Cockshaw in a well-dressed. Sorry, I'm a middle schooler here. I'm just giggling when I shouldn't be. And a well-dressed and richly garbed man who introduces himself as Sir John the Fiddler. But a hedge knight. So there's another hedge knight, Sir John the Fiddler. Biggles is here. Hello. In my defense, whatever you're talking about, I don't know how to read. Yes, I know that. And Snow White sucks. So let's see. I lost my place. So yeah, we got Alan Cockshaw and John the Fiddler. Although Duncan is insulted by Peake and Cockshaw, the Fiddler treats him courteously and invites Duncan to join them at the wedding of Lord Ambrose Butterwell to the daughter of House Frey at Whitehall. So we get a House Frey wedding, and I actually enjoyed the parts at the wedding. It describes a lot of the rituals, including the bedding ceremony, which is kind of weird.
It's not for shy people, is it?
No. And I always feel bad, frankly, for the women, because a lot of these princesses and stuff and these ladies, they were expected to be virgins and they were expected to be modest. And then all of a sudden you're being stripped by a bunch of men and thrown into a bed for everyone to watch. It's like, oh my gosh. Poor things. But yes, it's not for the shy. And says Duncan and Egg are prevented from sleeping in the stable of the old inn by the lakeshore. While camping along the shore, Duncan meets and befriends Sir Maynard Plum, Sir Kyle the Cat of Misty Moor, and Sir Glendon Ball, 3 other hedge knights traveling to the wedding. From there, he learns that there is to be a joust, to celebrate the wedding, and that the victor's prize is going to be a dragon egg. Again, very simple. Another joust, and you can get a dragon egg. Well, and here's the thing. A dragon egg isn't just like any old egg. I mean, at this point, well, at all points, these things were incredibly valuable and rare. And this is after all the dragons have died and these eggs are considered extinct, or I don't know what you call an egg that can't egg, whatever that's called.
Well, they're almost kind of fossilized in a way, right?
Yeah, that's
kind of
yeah.
Petrified eggs, maybe.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah. And Egg starts to figure out that there's something not right in River City because everyone that's hanging out at this place are families who fought for the Blackfires during the rebellion. And then it says he later overhears Lord Peake speaking with another man. Peake speaks of a dragon hatching from an egg as the prince had dreamed would happen, while his companion wonders whether the boy is his father's son. Now, this is another dream that I think this definitely has something going on, but a dragon hatching from an egg. Is that egg our egg?
Him becoming a dragon. Targaryen, foreshadowing.
Yep.
Or does it foreshadow something further ahead?
Precisely, yes, because of course he will become.
Well, it's a dragon though, not 3. So it's a dragon hatching from an egg. So it's probably has to do with egg.
Yeah,
but it could be a little bit of what's going to happen at Summerhall.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, and also I'm just thinking, I mean, obviously it's the egg. Later that evening, Duncan steps out onto the roof of White Walls where he's approached by the fiddler who claims he has recognized Duncan on the road because he has once dreamed of him. Another dream. He states that in his dreams, Duncan wore the all-white armor of the King's Guard, which we know comes true. And the fiddler says that all his dreams come true. And he says that to Duncan that his dreams had predicted the deaths of his brothers. He also tells Duncan that he has dreamed of a dragon hatching at Whitehall's. So, yeah. Duncan enters the wedding tourney at Whitehall's as a mystery knight, but loses his first tilt to some other dude. And he learns that Underleaf, the guy he lost to, had been paid to kill Duncan during the joust, and that Lord Peake had offered Sir Glendon Ball a place in the garrison in exchange to losing to the fiddler. Jousting and melees are ways in this world, and possibly in our world, that you can cover up a good old-fashioned murder. Because everyone's fighting, it's incredibly violent, quote-unquote, accidents happen. In the Fire and Blood book, that is how that one guy, the loser who was upset that he lost.
Sir Hugh of the Vale got killed. You know, the one who was a little bit of a witness to what might have happened to Sir Aaron.
Oh, yes. Right after, he had magically said, "Oh, look, he got knighted. He got all this money. Where'd that come from?" Then, oops,
mm-hmm.
Guess he got killed. Yeah. And there was also a plot to kill the king in the Game of Thrones book. There was going to be a melee, and that he was supposed to be Robert Baratheon was supposed to be maybe killed in that. I seem to recall. Yeah, whenever you get a bunch of men in armor with long sticks or just beating the crap out of each other, it is ripe for something to go wrong. Okay. During the next joust, Peake reveals to the crowd that the dragon's egg has been stolen. Oh dear. And Sir Glendon Ball is blamed and arrested. When Duncan moves to interfere, Cockshaw lures Duncan away by claiming to know where our little egg, can be found. However, he brings
So
Duncan
so basically, Cockshaw was cocksure.
Yes, you.
Cockshaw tipped him.
Wow.
Well, it did.
Yeah, you're right. Wow. However, he brings Duncan to a deserted courtyard and attempts to kill him. I mean, that's the oldest trick in the book. It's like, hey, I know where it is.
Yeah. So
But
Dunk basically got a big mouthful of information from Cockshaw.
Well, but he actually kills him, and then he kills him.
Yeah.
And Dunk is wounded. Sir Plum.
Yeah. And Sir Cockshaw is limp and dead.
So he's not so cocksure anymore.
No, his life came to a climax.
Okay.
What?
All right. So Major Plum.
I'm just explaining what happened in the story.
And now I said Major Plum because now I'm thinking of Clue. Maynard Plum comes to Duncan's rescue and reveals that egg can be found with Lord Butterwell in the castle's sept. In the sept, Duncan finds egg and discovers the boy had informed Butterwell and Frey of his true identity, claiming that Prince Maekar was already aware of the plot and on his way to White Walls with an army. Lord Ambrose's son-in-law, Hedge, shows up and attempts to take Egg hostage, but Duncan kills him. He sends Egg to accompany the fleeing Lord Ambrose while he himself confronts the fiddler by calling him by his true name, Damon the Second Blackfire. Dun, dun, dun. It's like the end of a Scooby-Doo thing. They unmask him. I know who you are, Blackfire. And so, again, this is all big plots going along. Duncan accuses Gorman Peake of falsely charging Sir Glendon with the theft of the dragon egg. In turn, Damon insists that Ball is allowed to prove his innocence and fight him in a trial by combat, because it's not one of these stories without an old-fashioned trial by combat. Despite his grave injuries from torture, Glendon easily defeats Damon. As soon as the combat is over, those present at White Walls are alerted to the fact that a castle is surrounded by a large army led by the King's Hand, Lord Brendan Rivers. We know the Rivers. Well, rather Rivers, that means that he's a bastard.
Well, Brendan Rivers, that's the guy in the cave that Bran meets.
Oh,
it's Bloodraven, who is most likely the main villain, the whole damn thing. But
you're right.
They screwed it up in the TV show.
Yeah, so forget everything y'all know from the TV show.
It's actually hinted at, the Lord of Light?
Oh, yeah.
That highly likely that is him. Posing as a, deity. So when they kill him in the show, then the Lord of Light powers shouldn't work anymore, should they?
True. If that is the case, and it's all George Martin's fault, we don't know.
Well, here's the thing. Melisandre has a chapter in book 5. And she's constantly, mentioning and stuff that she feels more powerful near the wall. Right? So she's probably closer to the source of her magic, right? Better Wi-Fi. Yeah. And she's looking into the fire, and she is try to see her lord, and she sees him clearly because she's more powerful near the wall, and it is a pale, almost wooden face with a birthmark over one eye, which is Bloodraven in in the cave. He has the birthmark,
Yeah. Okay. You
and
see, I haven't read book
yeah,
5, so
and he has a wolf next to him that's howling. That's Bran, right? So she sees her lord clearly, and it's Bloodraven. I mean,
ooh,
pretty strong hint right there.
well, that would be pretty cool. That changes a whole bunch.
Yeah. So when they killed him off in that plot hole in a show, they screwed up probably the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, the more I've read from the works makes me show that they don't understand. They didn't understand how the magic stuff worked
No,
in the books.
all they
Um,
did was they wanted to harness the events because they keep most of the events up through season 4, but stuff in between is altered big time.
Interesting. Maybe one
Yeah.
day I'll catch that if he ever finishes it, and I'll read it. So Daemon goes forth alone to confront them and is arrested, while most of the present lords and knights surrender without a fight or flee the scene because treason. Afterwards, Duncan meets Brynden Rivers, the Bloodraven, inside his pavilion. Lord Rivers strips Lord Butterwell of most of his wealth and decrees Whitehall's is forfeit to the throne and be torn down. Once they are alone, Lord Rivers informs Duncan and Egg that the dragon Daemon had seen hatch in his dreams was Egg. Ha! Imagine that, like we were saying. At Egg's request, Rivers gives Duncan the gold to ransom his armor back. He allows them to continue their travels. Before they leave, Duncan inquires after the fate of Daemon, while Egg asks what became of the dragon's egg. Although Rivers confirms nothing, his answers makes Duncan realize who had most likely stolen it. Yep. And once again, the story ends with a conclusion and Duncan Egg going off and having more adventures.
Yeah. And according to George Martin yesterday, the next one is going to be called, was it The Town Fool? Or something like that.
Let me see.
But he's also said there will be one called The She-Wolves of Winterfell. So Duncan Egg will go to Winterfell at one point. But that's probably the 5th part, maybe?
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking here. He says, well, where the hell? The village hero.
Okay, the village hero.
Yeah. And again, once again, I didn't enjoy this one as much. Maybe I need a second read because I feel like the first one I kind of got things, but being such a normie on these tales, I think I got confused a little bit on some of the names and some of the backstories because like everything that you just said about Bloodraven, I had no idea about because I haven't gotten there, and I've tried to wipe from my mind what the TV show did.
Yeah, I think it's isn't it revealed in? No, it's book 5 when Bran arrives in the cave. But yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, no, he's not
And
gotten there.
also interesting that Bloodraven was known to use illusions, and that he also used crows, seemingly for magic. So, sound a bit familiar?
Yeah,
crows and ravens and stuff in the north.
absolutely, it does. Huh. Well, good. So again, I give this one maybe an 8 out of 10. I mean, I definitely enjoyed this one a lot more. I loved the way that, I don't want to say Easter eggs, that's the wrong word, but just things like the bedding ceremony, getting to see that, getting to find out that there's a black fire, and that the you're right about the blood raven guy who
Yeah,
good stuff. And that whole egg, the revealing that egg is going to be the dragon that's going to be hatched. But also, if your theory about egg being Varys, that's where I was thinking the other separate meaning could be.
yeah. Because if a dragon is hatched by an egg, let's say it's Varys hatching, oh, Varys's egg, and he hatches a dragon, that would explain the um, the other Aegon that's in the books that they merged with Jon Snow in the show. Because Jon Snow is not Aegon Targaryen in the books.
Oh yeah, you're right. There's like, they call him Fagon because at this point we don't know if he's for real.
Yeah, because they think it's fake, but Varys smuggled him out before the Mountain could kill him, and had replaced him with another woman's baby. It actually fits if you look for the details. So it looks like Aegon um, in the books is actually real. So that would be Varys having hatched him, right?
Yeah.
Because he's the one who kind of gets support for him uh, covertly until he's ready to take the throne in a way.
Oh, well, there you go. If that is the case, that'll be very interesting, and will definitely put a lot of things on its head.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share this because I went ahead and went to the Not a Blog, the posts that Martin made just a few days ago, didn't he? Yeah. So this is him talking about the TV show A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. For starts, it's done. I've seen all 6 episodes now, the last 2 in rough cuts, admittedly, and I love them. Dunk and Egg have always been favorites of mine, and the actors we found to portray them are just incredible. The rest of the cast are terrific as well. Wait until you guys meet the Laughing Storm and Tanzel Too Tall. Now, this time around, did they do more accurate casting? Well, I know for sure they did for Dunk and Egg.
Yeah, I don't know about the rest. I haven't looked. Um, I'm kind of cautiously hoping that this show is good, but when it comes to the Game of Thrones TV stuff, including House of the Dragon and all that, it's all tainted because it ends in 4 beyond stupid seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
All roads lead to that because they decided to tie everything into it. So, it's like if there's a turd in the pot, don't cook more soup in it.
Yeah.
It's going to taint the whole soup, right? So,
understood. Yeah, it's very similar to what they did with Star Wars. Like, it doesn't matter what they do now because all roads lead to Jake.
yeah.
And then he said,
and they even tainted it backwards. So,
exactly, backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Oh dear. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is an adaptation of The Hedge Knight. Woo! The first of the novels I wrote about them. The first of the novelists. Oh, I wrote about them, Dunk and Egg. It's as faithful as adaptation as a reasonable man could hope for. And you all know how incredibly reasonable I am on that particular subject. Is he being sarcastic there?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Viewers who are looking for action and more action and only action, well, this one may not satisfy you. Well, come on. Don't pull that douchery, Martin. No one ever complained that there wasn't enough action. That was something that they were using to gaslight people to try to tell us that season 2 of House of the Dragon was good. I've never seen anyone complain that there wasn't enough action in adaptations of his works. People have complained that the writing was crap. Yeah, so I'm pointing the finger of judgment at you there, Martin. There is a huge fight scene here, as exciting as anyone could ask for, but there are no dragons this time around, no huge battles, no White Walkers. This is a character piece, and its focus is on duty and honor, on chivalry, and all it means. As we know, I don't know who he's talking to here, because even normies, I think, are fine with that. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that fight scene. See, I can enjoy this because I'll just, in my head, just kind of separate it out, unless they pull some real, have them have a dream of Dany like they did in House of the Dragon, though they won't do that this season. The
Well,
Hedge Knight.
the
Sorry.
modern writers and stuff, they tend to rely completely on member berries.
Mm-hmm.
It's become a thing. Uh, Star Wars in particular is riddled with it. It's like they can't do anything unless it has a lot of member berries in it.
Yeah. Which, yeah, maybe they'll do that. Though some of it, as I've already said, is kind of written into the work, but these were actually written, though, before the Game of Thrones TV show came out, before it was tainted, if you will, by his fame, which messed up a lot, in my humble opinion, where he is concerned. The Hedge Knight was published between A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings in Robert Silverberg's epic anthology Legends, and was so popular that it brought tens of thousands of new readers to Westeros. Sales of my novels were much higher after Legends than before, and for that I credit these people. And Duncan Ake. This one ranks as one of the best stories I've ever written. I would agree with him. This ranks as one of the best stories I've ever written. I'm so pleased that Ira Parker and all these people in our astonishing cast and crew did right by them. The series will make... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Did you know that there's another one? A book set in Westeros that you have not read.
Oh?
It's called what is it? The Winter Dragon?
Oh, I did not know.
It's a children's book, and George Martin has confirmed that it does take place in Westeros, and it is canon.
Oh, well, maybe I will read that.
Yeah, I have not read it, but and there's another short story in a book called Dangerous Women, which is an anthology of female characters, and a bunch of famous authors contributed a short story each, right? And Martin contributed one, which I think is about Nymeria. I think that was it.
Oh, well, there we go. You see, there's some things we can still enjoy that he finished. Yeah. All right, so I'll have a look at that eventually. The series will make its debut late this year. I am now told. How late, I could not say. Maybe in the fall. Yeah, you see, that's where it's like, just shut up, dude. You don't know. So don't say what you don't know. I hope you will love this show as much as I do. I'm sure I'm going to love season 1. Meanwhile, we'll be moving on to the Sworn Sword, the second tale of Duncan Ake, and once I finish the Winds of Winter... Oh, so now he's saying he's going to finish it. I will need to get hopping on the Village Hero. That's what we were talking about, and all the other tales that await the lads. Don't worry, I'm sure you folks will remind me. Well, damn right, you're the one... Hey, we wouldn't have to remind you if you didn't keep telling us that things were going to happen. What you should have done, Martin, was never say what you were going to do. because once you say it out loud, then you have to do it.
Yeah, but in terms of the Dunk and Egg stories, they should be way quicker to write
Oh
than
yeah,
any of the Game of Thrones ones, because it's pretty much from the point of view of Dunk, right?
yeah,
It's not complex. It doesn't have a sick amount of plot lines, or you know, hell, in the Song of Ice and Fire, it's probably 50 or more plot lines going on,
yeah,
that all are tied to each other
yeah,
in some way, and also to the main plot. So it's, I get why it's hard, and but it's his own doing for making it that complicated. But if you're writing a Dunk and Egg story, he should be able to push those out fairly fast,
yeah,
because they are straightforward.
yeah. And that's, I think, in a way why I enjoy them. I think that they're very much a nice little read. Is just sit down with a cup of tea and live in this world. And each one kind of has a bit of a message. And he's right. It's about chivalry. It's about good characters. Both Dunk and Egg are, they're good characters that you want to see, continue in their friendship, and you want them to succeed. You're cheering for them, and that's not often what we get nowadays. So well done. I would give the all three books of these as a total. Actually, I don't even know if I can do that. How can I really score them, because I
Well,
love the
you could
first.
do like a total so far kind of thing
Yeah,
overall.
total so far a solid 8.5 out of 10, and it's only low because I didn't really like the middle one too much.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say it's I'd say a 7.5, because the first one is almost a 10 out of 10. But then, you have the other two, which are around, six, between 6 and 8, right? Something
Hmm.
like that. So I'd give it a 7.5, but, like I said, if I am to reread them, I might reread the first one
Hmm.
more often than the other two. Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that if there's any kind of reread for me in the near future, it will be the graphic novels. And I think I might this time around be able to follow especially the second and third stories a little better, because I already kind of know the direction we're going, and we'll be able to sit a little more comfortably with what's
Yeah.
happening.
And like I said, the graphic novels were probably perfect adaptations of the short stories.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess my adaptation score for those would be 10 out of 10, because they they really stuck to the source material.
Yeah. And especially for you, from what you've told me about how you feel about these adaptations because they tie into the Game of Thrones TV show, the graphic novels won't have that taint. So people can enjoy them in the world that Martin
Yeah,
wrote, not the world that Benioff and Weiss wrote.
yeah, and the same goes for the graphic novels, I guess, based on the first two Song of Ice and Fire books,
Hmm.
because a Game of Thrones and a Clash of Kings had been released in comic form, rather, split into, I think it's 6 or 8 volumes each, something like that, and they cover most of the books, and they do it by the book, not by the show at all.
Yeah.
So those were amazing as well. And as a side note, that they've done the first Wheel of Time book in graphic novel form as well. That was a 10 out of 10. And they've just started doing book two. So um, I guess it looks to be like the best adaptations for fantasy books tends to be graphic novels now.
Yes.
Um, and I mean, The Hobbit got a graphic novel, and that one stuck to the book like a hawk for all its flaws, really, even because the Hobbit isn't a perfect book.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's not a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Well, The Hobbit was very interesting because obviously it was not. It was a story that he wrote it, and then when Lord of the Rings happened, it just like became a monster, like a good monster, and just blew it out of the water. But I agree with you that it's a very entertaining story
Yeah,
and flaws. I think graphic novels are the only ways we're going to go. One would hope. Some people have asked why they haven't done a Lord of the Rings adaptation, and at this point, graphic novel rather. I'm not sure that we can have that because I don't know if some of the problems we've been having with our adaptations in graphic novel form would find their way into the Lord of the Rings, like that it stayed under the radar with the Wheel of Time adaptations because it's still not as popular. But it seems like people just can't keep their hands away from Tolkien or Star Wars for that matter, that they really want to ruin those. So I don't trust them, especially the current family, the current custodians of the Tolkien estate, to make sure that those would be adapted properly.
I think a lot of the problems tend to stem from narcissistic showrunners or whatever, or directors
Hmm.
that decide to basically what they do is, this is my take on it, right? Rather than
Mm-hmm.
sticking to the source material. This is my vision for it. Me, right? When all
Mm.
they have to do is stick to the damn source material. That's all
Yeah,
they
it's
have
not
to
hard.
do.
I've said on more than one occasion, if I had the budgets that these people had in the studios behind them, like for example, the Wheel of Time, holy crap, would I have just had so much fun doing it? I mean, imagine what real fans would have been able to do.
Yeah.
Um, Alrighty, well, we're going to wrap up this party. I know it's getting a little bit relatively late for you, and I've got some stuff happening here in my world. Now, I think you have some streams coming up with Mara. Am I right? Is that coming up, or what's going on?
Um, yeah, we're doing our top 10 favorite 1996 movies. I think we're doing it next week or the week after. I'm not sure. But
Okay.
we've been doing it once per month. Um, we started with 1980, so um, yeah, we've been at it for quite a bit. But it's not the top 10 best movies. It's just our favorites. So there, quite often, there's some really bad movies in there too. But
Yeah.
a lot of people have nostalgic memories of movies. Maybe they had the VHS when they were kids and watched it 50 times,
Yeah.
even though the movie is crap, right?
Yeah. And
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's what's also fun
No,
about these streams is that the audience also brings their own top 10. So, like when Stieg or Mara have their 10, then everyone puts their 10. So, it's very audience participatory. So, if you're not subscribed to Mara, go ahead and do
yeah.
that. And I don't think there's anything else really going on with you, is there?
Um, no, but I think you and I might be doing a stream about the your action movie challenge for January.
Why, yes, we will be. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, because today is the last day, and we had a 10 movie challenge for January. My challenge, yes, it will. So we will be just doing that next week when both of our schedules mesh. And it's not too late, because even though it was a challenge for January, part of the reason I did it in January was because there wasn't really a lot going on, kind of helping to beat those post-holiday blues. So you can still do it. There's no law telling you can watch action movies at any time. So yes, we're going to be doing that sometime next week. Also tomorrow night, I've already mentioned it, at 7 Central, going to be Eowyn in the book. So far, I've done what? Boromir in the book, Faramir in the book, and then Eowyn in the book. Because even though I'm on the record saying I enjoy the Peter Jackson movies, I like them, love them in many ways, it's still different from the book. And so we're only going to talk about Eowyn the way Tolkien wrote Eowyn, not anyone's interpretation. So I think that you'll find some good nuggets in there. So that's going to be with High King Feanor. Videos will return next Friday. I've got some more Tolkien letters and anything else. I also might be doing something about the new Little House on the Prairie TV show that Netflix is doing, which I have concerns about already. I don't know. Why do they do this? Why do they do this to us?
Well, it's going to be identity politics on the prairie.
Exactly. Little SJW on the prairie. Oh, dear. All right. So that's going to be it. Well, I want to thank everyone that's popped in. I know many of you popped in and out just to say hello. If you're not fans, and that's fine, or don't want to be spoiled, but thank you for showing your support and leaving a like and a share, and hopefully a subscribe as well. Spike Insanity was here. Lord Thoth, Tomby, Follow the Bradleys, Fun Biggles, Liam M, Buddy Hepburn, DJ Play Nice, Dadman Walking, Your Barmy, and I think I got everyone. And if I missed anyone, it's not intentional. It can jump around. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain to continue to read good fantasy.